It was just past 7 on a quiet Saturday morning when the bell above the diner door gave a soft chime. Linda's Diner was the kind of place where the seats were cracked but comfortable, where the waitresses remembered your name and your coffee order. Most of the regulars were truckers and old-timers, but today a dozen motorcycles lined the parking lot, chrome shining through the mist. Inside, the smell of bacon and burnt coffee mingled in the air. In the far corner, men and women in worn leather vests sat gathered around a long table, mugs in hand, laughter low and easy. They were the Liberty Riders, an old-school motorcycle club that preferred pancakes to trouble and showed up to charity rides more often than they did bar fights. Jack Collins sat at the far end of the table, his cup of black coffee untouched, eyes fixed on the window like he was waiting for something, or someone. He was in his early 50s, graying at the beard, a man who didn't speak unless it mattered, and that morning it did. When the door opened, no one looked up at first, just another customer, they figured. But the room slowly quieted. A boy had stepped inside. He was about 11, maybe a little younger, with messy brown hair and a face that hadn't seen rest or kindness in days. His jeans were too short, his sneakers worn through at the toes. He clutched something to his chest, a folded piece of paper. His eyes scanned the room, skipped over the counter seats and the booths, and walked straight toward the corner table where the bikers sat. He stopped in front of Jack and said, "I need just one ride." His voice was soft but firm, like a question you'd already asked too many times. Jack set his cup down slowly and looked the boy in the eye. The others waited, expecting him to say what every adult before had likely said. Go home, call the police, we can't help you. But Jack didn't say any of that. He just asked, "Where to?" The boy unfolded the paper. It was a map, hand-drawn in crayon. Blue rivers, green lines for roads, lopsided trees. In the corner, a blue box labeled Blue House. Next to it, a red X. "My mom is alive," the boy said. "She's at this house, but nobody believes me." The name on the map was written in block letters. Logan, that was his name. Logan Morgan. The bikers exchanged glances. Jenna, the only woman in the group, leaned in. "If your mom's missing, you should go to the police, sweetheart." "I did," Logan said. "They said she probably left, that she needed a break." "Do you think something else happened?" asked Travis, trying to keep his voice kind. "I know it." That's when Jack's shoulders tensed just slightly. It wasn't the boy's words. It was the way he said them, like he'd been dismissed one too many times, pushed aside by adults who'd already decided what his truth was supposed to be. Jack had heard that voice before, years ago, coming out of his own mouth, the year his little sister vanished and nobody listened. "What's your full name?" Jack asked. "Logan Morgan. I'm Jack. This is Jenna, Travis, Cody, and Marcus." Jack nodded toward the others. "You run away from somewhere?" Logan hesitated. "Foster care, temporary placement." "Do they know you're here?" "No." Jenna sighed. "Jack, we can't just—" Jack raised his hand. "Tell me what happened," he said to Logan. "The real story, all of it." And Logan told him about living with his mom, Rachel Morgan, in a small apartment above a laundromat. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning during the day, waiting tables at night. One night she woke him up and told him to stay quiet. He heard voices, a man, angry, a car door, then silence. By morning she was gone. No note, no sign of a struggle, just gone. The police said single mothers sometimes walk away, that she was overwhelmed, that Logan was probably in denial. But he remembered the place she used to take him sometimes, a house near a creek where he'd sleep in the back seat while she went inside. She never said who lived there, just that it was a friend. But Logan remembered. He'd drawn every curve of the road, every tree, every turn. "I think something bad happened there," he whispered, "and I think she's still there, somewhere." Jack sat back. The room was silent now, the pancakes on their plates forgotten. The story hung in the air like dust in sunlight. He could see the others waiting for him to say something reasonable, call social services, hand the kid off.
But reason hadn't saved his sister. Listening too late hadn't helped her either. Jack stood up and looked at Logan. "Finish your breakfast. We ride in 15.
By the time the sun lifted past the tree line, the Liberty Riders were already on the road. Engines low, headlights cutting through the early fog like searchlights through memory. Logan rode with Jack, arms wrapped around the biker's waist, his cheek resting against the back of the leather jacket. The road hummed beneath them like an old song no one had sung in a while. They didn't ride fast, they rode steady, following Logan's instructions from the map in his head, the one drawn in crayon and memory. Every so often, Logan would tap Jack's shoulder and point left or right, sometimes at a crooked fence, sometimes at an old gas station. "We passed this once," he'd say. "It was always just before the turn." And then they saw it. A bridge, narrow, wooden, weathered to a soft gray. It groaned under the weight of the motorcycles as they rolled across, one by one. Below, a dark creek snaked its way under the timbers. On the other side, a gravel road peeled away into a tangle of pine and weeds. At the end of that road, tucked behind overgrown bushes and leaning trees, sat a house. The paint had once been bright blue, now dulled to the color of worn denim. One side of the porch sagged. The windows were either boarded or broken. No lights, no cars, just silence and the creak of metal as the bikers parked and shut off their engines. "That's it," Logan whispered. "The blue house." Jack scanned the area. No fresh tire tracks, but something in the air felt off, like the silence wasn't natural but forced. He raised his fist, a signal the riders knew well. "Fan out. Check the perimeter. No one touches anything yet." Jenna and Travis circled the house. Cody headed toward the trees. Marcus stayed back with Logan. Jack approached the front porch slowly. The wood beneath his boots moaned. The door wasn't locked. It just hung there, crooked on its hinges, as if it had given up on keeping anything in or out. Inside, the air was stale. Mold, dust, something sour. The living room was bare except for a stained mattress and an old blanket bunched in the corner. No pictures, no furniture, but not empty, not abandoned. "Someone's been here," Jack muttered. Travis called from the kitchen. "Jack, you'll want to see this."
A card table, 2 folding chairs, a paper plate with crumbs, a half-filled cup of water, plastic fork, all recent, all untouched. Jack's eyes narrowed. Too fresh to be from months ago. Someone had used this space, maybe still was. He crouched by the mattress. A dark smear stained the fabric. Could have been old coffee, could have been something else. He didn't say it out loud. Out back, Cody had stopped near the tree line. The dirt there was uneven, shallow mounds of disturbed earth, like someone had dug and filled the space in a hurry. "Jack," Cody called, "over here." Jack joined him. He crouched. The soil was loose, too loose. He brushed aside the top layer with his hands. 6 inches down, his fingers struck something, plastic, black, tied at the top. "Jenna," he said, his voice tight, "help me." They lifted the bag out together. Jack untied the knot. Inside was a woman's denim jacket, faded but intact, a tear in the sleeve. Beneath it, a pair of sneakers, worn, small. Under that, a second bag. Inside, a cell phone. Logan approached before anyone could stop him. The moment he saw the jacket, his knees buckled. "That's hers," he whispered. "That's my mom's jacket." Jack stood quickly, blocking Logan's view. "We don't know anything for sure yet," he said. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew they weren't true. The jacket, the phone, the half-eaten food. Someone had been here, maybe still was. Jenna took out her phone and stepped away to call Detective Eric Saunders. Back near the house, Marcus was keeping Logan calm, but the boy was shaking now, his arms wrapped around his stomach, like he was holding himself together. Jack walked over, knelt down. "You said she brought you here before?" Jack asked softly. Logan nodded. "She always told me to sleep in the car. I never saw who she talked to." "You did good, Logan," Jack said. "You remembered. You got us here." "But what if we're too late?" Jack looked him in the eye. "Then we make sure no one forgets what happened, and we don't stop until we know the whole truth." Logan didn't answer, but his hands slowly stopped trembling. In the distance, sirens began to rise.
Detective Eric Saunders arrived within minutes, gravel crunching under his tires as he pulled into the overgrown driveway. His unmarked sedan was followed by 2 uniformed deputies. The man stepped out without his jacket, sleeves rolled up, eyes scanning the scene with the calm of someone who had seen too much but refused to look away. Jack handed him the phone and the jacket. Saunders took them carefully, like they might fall apart. "This is enough to reopen the case," he said quietly. "I'll log it, start the process tonight." "What about the phone?" Jack asked. "Battery's dead, but I'll get it to someone who can pull the call logs. If there's something buried in there, we'll find it." "And if the brass tries to shut you down again?" Saunders met Jack's eyes. "Then I'll make noise." That night, Jack and the riders gathered in the back room of their clubhouse, an old garage turned meeting hall just off Highway 53. Maps were spread across the table, marked up with highlighters, notes, and printouts. Owen had joined them, an old friend of Jack's and former deputy who knew how to dig into public records. Together, they traced property ownership near Route 9. 3 buildings showed up under the same name, Brandon Ellis Construction. 2 were active sites, well-staffed and visible. But the third, that one stood out. "Maintenance facility," Owen said, "built 3 years ago, zoned for equipment storage. No building permits pulled since." "No security?" Jack asked. "None listed. Basic power line, no utility usage for over a month. Perfect place to hide something or someone." Jack looked across the table at Logan, who sat quietly, eyes locked on the old cell phone now resting inside a plastic evidence bag. The boy hadn't said much since they left the blue house. He didn't have to. His silence spoke for all of them. Early the next morning, 36 bikes rumbled to life just after dawn. The road to the facility was barely wide enough for 2 cars, with tree branches clawing at mirrors and weeds swallowing the signs. At the gate, they stopped. A thick chain looped through the entrance, padlocked tight. "This is it," Owen said. "Document everything," Jack reminded them. "No kicking down doors unless someone's in danger." Travis and Cody walked the perimeter, while Jenna spotted a cut in the chain-link fence behind a thicket of bushes. Fresh. Someone had been through recently. Jack slipped through the gap, his boots crunching over broken pine cones, hand resting on the handle of the flashlight clipped to his belt. They moved silently, cautious. Then a sound stopped them cold. A voice, weak, muffled, but human. "Help," it said again. It came from the shed. Jack raised his hand. No one moved. He called Saunders. "We found her," he said. "We hear her inside." "Do not enter," Saunders warned. "I'm 15 minutes out. Wait for backup. Make it 10. Jack hung up, looked at Owen. "Break it." Owen grabbed a tire iron from his saddlebag. 2 hits, the lock snapped. Jack pulled the door open. Inside, a woman lay curled on a cot, too thin, skin pale, hair matted. Her wrists bore marks from restraints. An empty jug lay near her feet. She blinked against the morning light. "Rachel?" Jack asked. She nodded, eyes too dry for tears. Jenna moved past him with a water bottle. "Small sips," she whispered, kneeling beside her. Rachel drank, then coughed. "Where's Logan?" "He's safe," Jack said. "He's the reason we found you." More tears, this time from her. "He remembered the house," she said. "I hoped he would."
Moments later, Logan saw her from across the clearing and broke into a run. She stood on trembling legs, arms wide, and they met in the middle of the dirt driveway, mother and son collapsing into each other, like gravity had been pulling them together all along. Saunders arrived with sirens still echoing in the woods. He saw the hug, nodded once, and gave orders to his deputies. The scene was secured, paramedics were called, and an arrest warrant was issued. Jack stood beside Saunders as the paperwork moved forward. "You ready to take on Ellis?" he asked. "He won't be easy," Saunders said. "He's the mayor's son. He's got lawyers. Then we'd do it loud." Rachel sat beside Logan in the back of an ambulance, refusing to leave without him. She gave her statement calmly. Ellis had been seeing her in secret, using her to move money under false names, hidden accounts. When she found out, she threatened to expose him. He panicked, took her to the blue house, then moved her when he thought someone might start asking questions.
"He said the case would go cold," she told Saunders, "that I'd just vanish." "He didn't count on your son," Jack said, "or 36 bikers who knew what it felt like to be ignored." That afternoon, Brandon Ellis was arrested without incident. His legal team protested loudly, but the press was already circling. A local reporter had picked up the story. By morning, it would be on every major channel in the region. The truth was out, and there was no putting it back in the bag. By the time the sun dipped behind the trees, the world had already changed. The maintenance facility was cordoned off, yellow tape snapping gently in the wind. Deputies stood at the perimeter. Paramedics loaded Rachel onto a stretcher, but she kept one hand locked around Logan's until they told her she could keep him beside her during the ride. She didn't argue. She simply whispered, "I'm not letting go again." And Logan nodded as if those were the only words he ever needed to hear. Brandon Ellis was booked by dinner time. His lawyer shouted to reporters about misunderstandings and fabricated claims, but the evidence told a different story. The jacket, the phone, the location of the holding site. Most damning of all was Rachel's testimony, backed by call logs pulled from the recovered device. Within 24 hours, the mayor released a statement claiming ignorance of his son's activities, but by then, no one cared. Public outrage was already rolling through the community like a freight train with no brakes. Back at the Liberty Riders clubhouse, Jack sat quietly at the long wooden table. A pot of coffee sat untouched in front of him. On the wall behind him, someone had carefully pinned Logan's crayon map, creases and all, into a frame. No one said much. They didn't have to. Jenna walked in with an update from the hospital. Rachel was stable, dehydrated, underfed, emotionally worn thin, but alive. And more than that, present. Logan refused to leave her side, even to sleep. The hospital had set up a cot in her room. When a nurse brought him juice, he said thank you. When she brought him another blanket, he said he didn't need it. He had his mom. Saunders called later that evening. His voice sounded older than the day before, tired but lighter. "Just wanted to say thank you," he told Jack. "We don't get many wins like this." Jack said nothing at first. Then, "You did your part. You listened." "No," Saunders replied. "That boy told the truth, but you were the one who believed it." Jack leaned back in his chair, eyes drifting to the map again. It was messy, childlike, uneven, but it had led them exactly where they needed to go. A kid with crayons had done what the system wouldn't. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need to be shouted, it just needs someone to ride toward it. The next morning, the Liberty Riders gathered again, this time without a mission, just coffee, just each other. Logan arrived with Rachel. She wore a borrowed jacket, oversized but clean, and held herself a little straighter than the day before. Logan clung to her side, one hand gripping hers, the other tucked into the pocket of his hoodie. When they stepped inside, the room fell silent. Then Travis stood, then Jenna, then Cody. One by one, they rose without a word.
Jack walked over to Rachel, nodded once, and handed her something wrapped in cloth. It was a Liberty Rider's patch, not earned through engines or miles, but through survival and strength. "Your family now," he said simply. Rachel didn't speak, but her eyes brimmed with tears. Not the kind born from fear or exhaustion, but the kind that come when you realize you're no longer alone. Later, as the room emptied out, Logan wandered to the map. He looked up at Jack. "Why'd you believe me?" he asked. Jack took a long breath. "Because a long time ago, I was the one standing in a room full of grown-ups, begging them to listen, and no one did." Logan nodded, his small fingers tracing the red X in the corner. "She said people would forget her," he whispered. "But you didn't." "No," said Jack, "we never will." In the weeks that followed, the story of Rachel and Logan spread. Local news gave way to regional headlines, then national attention. People across the country asked how a group of bikers had done what the authorities didn't, but the answer was always the same. They listened, they believed, and they showed up. That's what made the difference. Today, Logan's map still hangs on the clubhouse wall. It's not just a memory, it's a reminder that sometimes the road to justice isn't paved with power or titles, but with faith in the people we're told not to trust, with the courage to stand up when the world says sit down, with the choice to believe in one quiet voice when everyone else turns away. So if a boy ever walks into your life with a story no one else believes, what will you do? Will you ignore him, or will you ride? Because kindness, like truth, doesn't always shout. Sometimes it rumbles.